guys, Holly here. Welcome to day 3 of my 21 day You Woke Up Worthy journaling experience. Today is a day about forgiving yourself. And in the book, the author suggests that you sit down and make a list of things that you need to forgive yourself for, going back as far as possible. And then she gives a detailed description of a Hawaiian forgiveness ritual that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce because I know I'll butcher it. Um, but it's detailed instructions on um, this this ritual of forgiveness and something that you should do for each thing on your list. For the purposes of the video, I'm not going to go through every step on camera because it would be kind of time consuming. But if you're interested in knowing what the steps are, maybe leave a comment and maybe I'll put it in the comment somewhere or add it to the description. Okay, so let's start. The number one thing that I need to forgive myself for is for not being perfect. And that's not something that I expect of anyone else, but somehow I put that burden on myself. And I'm quick to blame myself if anything goes wrong, whether it's actually my fault or not. Somehow I will fault myself for it. And the biggest problem with that is that it means I am constantly in a state of criticizing myself. So if someone says something that I even perceive as critical, sometimes I lash out because I feel like I'm already beating myself up about it so much. I can't handle hearing it from anyone else, which has caused problems in relationships because sometimes it makes that other person feel like I'm never willing to accept responsibility for anything. I'm never willing to admit that I'm wrong, and what they don't know is that secretly inside I'm taking responsibility for everything and I'm always feeling like I'm wrong. So that's the number one thing, is to forgive myself for not being perfect and to stop trying to hold myself to that standard. Number 2 on my list is probably the other thing that has had the biggest impact on me and has affected so much of my life. It's a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, pain that I've been carrying for years. And people closest to me in my life know about this. It's only been recently that I've been able to really comfortably discuss it. And that's the fact that on my 19th birthday, I had an abortion. And it was the most horrible thing I've ever gone through. It wasn't something that I did because I wanted to or because I felt inconvenienced by this pregnancy. It was a desperate act that really came from me feeling like I had no choice. Hindsight being 2020, I see so many different ways that that situation could have been handled, that it should have been handled. But at the time, it felt very much like I had no other choice. And I have carried so much guilt and shame over that. Felt horrible because it was a decision I made that didn't just affect me. Aside from the obvious life that I ended, the father of that child was given no choice. He didn't even know anything until after the fact. I took that choice away from him. I took away the chance for my mother to be a grandmother and for my brother to be an uncle. And I took this from other people without them having any choice in it. They were forced to live with my decision. And that's um, guilt that I have carried around for over 20 years. Uh, the third thing on my list is I need to forgive myself for my marriage. When I was in my very early 20s, I married someone that I should never have married. Um, he was a good guy, and for a while, he was my best friend, and I adored him, and I did love him, but I didn't love him the way that I feel a woman should love the man that she marries. I loved him like I loved my closest friends. I loved him in that way that he felt like family to me. He was precious to me, but I didn't love him that way. And unfortunately, when he wanted to marry me, I felt like I couldn't say no. And it sounds very silly saying it now. Um, but back then, it seemed like he's a good guy. He loves me. My friends and family love him. We get along so great. Why don't I love him the way that I should? And instead of just accepting that, I just didn't. And I didn't have to have a reason any more than we have to have a reason of why we fall in love with someone. I just felt it was because there was something wrong with me, that maybe I just couldn't love anybody. And if I was going to be able to make a marriage work with anybody, it would have to be somebody as good as him. And I just ignored the fact that we just weren't the right people for each other. And because I was never totally honest about who I was, I hid so much of my feelings. Um, I I would think to myself sometimes when he would tell me he loved me, I would think, but you don't even really know me. And that wasn't his fault. That was my fault. My fear made me hide so much of myself. So he never really got to know the real me. And over time, he came to resent me, and his drinking picked up, and I started hating him because he broke promises to me. And when we lost respect for each other, that was just it. Um, and sadly, we are not friends anymore, and I hate that. And I fully accept my share of that blame, but it is also time to forgive myself and let go of some of that. Um, I'm still sorry that I hurt him, but I also know that I didn't intend to hurt him. That wasn't a plan. That wasn't a goal. Um, so I need to stop feeling guilty and uh, and let that go. And then the last thing on my list, it's another one that to me is a big one, um, because it's had so much effect on my life. I need to forgive myself for being afraid to be myself for so long. It was a cycle that I repeated many times in my life, particularly in relationships where I would be I'd have these walls up, I'd be so guarded, I'd keep so much of myself to myself, and then I would almost start to resent the other person for not loving the real me. But the truth is, they never had a chance to because I wasn't giving them the real me. And then I'd become angry with myself. And then my self loathing would get to a point where I would just have to end the relationship. But the problem is, I never broke the cycle. I just kept doing it over and over and over again. Um, and there came a point where I thought, I can't figure out how to stop doing this. So I just give up. And I had resigned myself to, dying alone. Um, and then, quite unintentionally, I found myself with the man that I'm now engaged to. And I'm not going to say that it's been perfect from the beginning because I've been having to break some of these lifelong bad habits. I'm thankful that he's been patient about a lot of that. I know there's times where it's been frustrating for him, but he hasn't given up on me. He's worked through, those things with me. And he's helped me love some of the parts of myself that in the past maybe I didn't, just because he sees them differently than I do, and has helped open my eyes to certain things. Um, so I'm really grateful for that. And I think that's part of why I'm able to now even make this attempt to work through some of these things, deal with some of these different topics, and forgive myself for things that I've been carrying around, some of them for over 20 years. So that's basically it for my list. But what about you? What have you been carrying around that it's time to let go and move on? I'd be curious to see what kind of baggage some of you have been hauling around. So leave a comment or send me a private message. Um, Tomorrow's topic is forgiving others, and there's going to be some doozies on my list. Anyway, so those of you that have stuck around, thanks, and see you tomorrow. Bye.